Many media houses in Africa are dependent on money from advertisers. So essentially, advertisers determine the kind of story that you put out to the public. So the freedom that the media is supposed to have, there are now so many gatekeepers that the gatekeeping now is not just external, it is now internal. You now see journalists now self-censor. You now be asking yourself, okay, this thing I want to say, is it the right time to say it? Is it the truth? Should I release it now? This data that I have, if I share it now, would it cause an upheaval? At the end of the day, you realize the way media is supposed to be run, as having journalists as workers in there, is now more of, okay, do what I say and I'll pay your salary at the end of the month. Whereas the ideal setting is, I'm a journalist, my eyes should be able to see news anywhere and report it as it is. In Nigeria, 5 journalists are currently detained.
Okay.
And media, this was where I was even going to. And media independence is being undermined by financial dependence on state and corporate advertisers. I remember in school then they told you that who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Yeah.
Many of the media houses that we claim to work for, essentially one of the media houses journalists that will work there. If you want to do a story, and it's going to affect the pipeline of the funding that is making that media stand, you had better either walk away or you kill that story.
Yes.
Many media houses in Africa are dependent on money from advertisers. So essentially, advertisers determine the kind of story that you put out to the public. So the freedom that the media is supposed to have, there are now so many gatekeepers that the gatekeeping now is not just external, it is now internal. You now see journalists now self-censor. Just to allude to what you were talking about, you now self-say, this thing I want to say, would it help? Would it be misinterpreted? You now be asking yourself, okay, this thing I want to say, is it the right time to say it? Is it the truth? Should I release it now? This data that I have, if I share it now, would it cause an upheaval? At the end of the day, you realize the way media is supposed to be run, as having journalists as workers in there, is now more of, okay, do what I say and I'll pay your salary at the end of the month. That is my job. But now you're not at point that if I report it as it is and I don't get paid, I'm going back starving.
Exactly.
Something that is supposed to be your passion, you're now seeing more as a job to earn a pay. And what we end up having is a society where people are now afraid to speak.
Sure.
Imagine when I think there was a time in Nigeria we tried this whistleblower policy. And in my head, I'm like, I thought maybe many journalists would be proud now to release some of the information that they had. But you now realize the whistleblower policy, if it was that popular when they did it and then it was working, I think by now we have solutions to many of our problems. Yeah. Nobody talks about this thing I just mentioned now, whistleblower policy. I don't think it has come up in the conversation. But then when it first started, it was in almost every conversation. Everybody will talk about whistleblower. Well, let me see how much I'm going to get out of it. It was part of whistleblower policy that helped us to recover one Ikoyi building when we saw that there was one person that's always, according to the story, one mad woman will always go there and then come out and they will just uncover different currencies in a building. Nobody's living inside. How much, because then there's going to know how much you're going to give the whistleblower who we never eventually knew. But what are the odds that they pass on this information to you as a journalist and then you can't even report it?
Yes.
The gatekeeping is so much that, for example, you as maybe a field reporter, you get an information, you have to now go through maybe a sub-editor who will now have to go to the editor-in-chief, and the editor will now go to maybe the publisher, and the publisher maybe the owner, if these are different people, just because you want a story that can change lives or improve lives, you have it in your hand.
You know, it's quite interesting how I've had a similar experience. One of my former media organization, the chairman actually called us in. There was a certain political leader who was in the news at that point, and he told us point blank that I am friends with this person. Okay. Go a long way. So if you see any news, please skip it. Okay. Point blank. He called all of us. Skip it. And at that particular day, the news I was going to read, I had the story of that story. So I told him, sir, Though this news I was going to read is an allegation. It said remove it. So sometimes it comes from within. He said, this person is my friend. In fact, his bank rolling me.
Okay.
So
You don't want to collect salary.
Now you got it.
Yeah.
so that's some of the things we experience. So at a point, when I get into certain media organization, I ask, are they for the government or opposing
For the people.
Yes.
I always ask because that's how bad it has gotten. So you have to be even very careful now with media organizations and all this. And if you remember, there was this particular African country that just got a new female president.
The one that had to do almost all opposition.
Social media, internet was shut off, media coverage, no
blackout.
protest, nothing. Total suppression of media. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, we can even talk about China also. China broadcasts what they want you to see. What they don't want you to see,
You can't broadcast it.
People are angry with Trump and Saudi Arabia with this their new deal because of Khashoggi. And what happened to Khashoggi.
Yes.
And people thought that Trump would go after the people who were fingered to be
behind
Khashoggi's death. But now he has a deal with Saudi Arabia, $1 trillion, and people are getting angry. So it cuts across all countries, not just Africa. And
I do feel like back here in Africa, the challenges are more, right? Because how often do you get to see a journalist sue maybe a government official? I'm not saying a lawyer now, I'm saying as a journalist, you sue a government official for infringing on my right to practice my job.
Right? that was where I was actually coming to. When you talk about suing the government. Now, when you look at those in the judiciary system, do you really think they have their own, they have autonomy, or they are also being controlled by the government?
They have autonomy.
They have autonomy, but is it something that they practice, or the government has influence on their decisions? Now, okay, why I said that, I cannot remember the particular story right now, but a journalist who goes to court, whether he sued the government or a state, I can't remember which exactly now, but when they got to court, the judge told the journalist that you do not have the legal stand to sue the government because your case is not holding water. Your evidences are no, you do not have enough evidences to back up your case. Now, this was someone that was openly abused, infringed on the right of a journalist. There is nothing wrong. Yes, we understand that for you to go to State House to cover information, there are rules, there are standards that media organization should have met. During, of course, when we were in school, we saw all that, and they made us know that you must have up to you would have operated for some number of years. The State House would have approved you before you can come in. You can't just go in. Yes, we understand that. Now, this person is working in a media house that was recognized, and yet it was still abused. That is one. So even the government has influence on the judiciary, whereby you as a journalist, your rights are limited when you go to court. Secondly, another effect of this suppression that people are not looking at is that the society do not trust the media, the stories coming from the media houses.
Let me put it this way. If we were asked, let's do a poll. Right? Are journalists, not media, are journalists generally liked? What would be the answer?
If they are liked?
Yes. Do people like journalists?
Yeah, people do actually.
Why do they now resist talking to journalists?
Okay, now, one of the reasons some persons speaking, they are ashamed of the camera. People don't want to be seen on camera speaking. Sometimes speaking when it has to be on a topic that involves the government. That goes back to where we are coming from. Fear, suppression. They don't want to be seen speaking against the government or talking about what is currently happening. For instance, you're talking about insecurity. The governor of Benue State came out and said that there was no genocide in Benue State. But we saw videos, right? So we don't even, are we to believe the governor, or we have to believe what we're saying? Now, someone like that is on the street telling you right now that I don't want to talk to journalists, I don't want them to come for my family. So everybody's staying back.
So journalists are not like it.
It is not journalists. Now, change the topic if people will not talk. But it all depends on the topic. The issue that you are conversing or you are asking people about determines whether people want to talk to you or they will not want to talk to you. This is another December. Last December, I was at Ikeja when Lagos State organized the fun fair, whatever. I went to cover the whole fun. At a point, when you approach them and tell them, okay, can we just talk about, they'll tell you, no. Then let me start with the person that they are standing beside. You will see the other person that refused walk into camera. And first of all, before they will even start, they will ask you, is it about government? That was my experience last December. Is it about government? If it's about government, I beg, I don't want them to come for my family. I love my life, I love my job. So it's all about the topic. So if it is a general topic, people want to talk about it.
Okay.
But when it involves government, no, people will back out.
If we're looking at journalists in themselves, I also feel like while we can blame everybody else, we can also blame ourselves. I'll give an example. I remember this was like over 10 years where we used to play football. I don't know this kid. I don't know the child, but the news filtered that where we used to stay, 2 streets away, one kid was murdered. He was stabbed. And then he died bleeding out. I now learned that the boy we all play football together. So I don't know him physically, but in football, guys just come and then we all play. And then I go to visit them. As a young journalist there, I just went there like, okay, let me go here. And the first thing the mother of the deceased boy was saying was, I don't want to speak to the media. Why? The first thing she said was, all of them came. After I told this story, they all went back and wrote different things. So I don't want to speak with the media anymore. Then I used to work with one newspaper house, one of the leading ones. I don't need to give them advert. And then I now went to the woman. How I was able to get her to speak again was first saying, Ma, I played football with this boy. I know him. I need the world to hear the story. She now looked at me and said, you know him? Mentioned his name. And I said, yes, I don't know this kid. And then she went on and told the story. So the only service I needed to do for this woman was not to bring the child back, was to tell the story as she narrated it. When I did that, I published the story, sent a copy to her. She read it in tears. She told everybody in her place, like, this is the first person who told the story of my boy as it is. Why did I give that instance? Sometimes in our bid to self-censor or look good, we end up creating a false impression on the people who are supposed to be telling the stories. The journalist is not supposed to be a fancy writer to come and embellish the story. Say it as it is. Why did I ask that question? Are journalists liked or hated? Over time, we have shown that we can be compromised. Over time.
Yes.
So they don't trust us anymore. Enter a normal conversation. You would hear, oh, he's probably working for the government. Even when you're making sense. Oh, he's probably working for the government. Oh, he's been bought. Oh, his allegiance is to one thing. Because over time they've seen that maybe not necessarily you, but you have colleagues who are falling short of the standard. I remember, it's even current. There's this WhatsApp group that we belong to, and most of the time they bring issues that happen, and they'll bring it and we'll all talk about it. You will see quite clearly that people's biases are so showing that even in their jobs, you can now tell that this person is not doing journalism as it's supposed to be, right? Now, in that scenario, you already agree. But that's why when people look at journalists like, well, I bet these people are just hungry people, you tend to want to agree with them, even though you are one, because you see your colleagues do things that ordinarily, it's not about necessarily hunger. We know many of us are underpaid. Let's not even lie to ourselves. Many of the media houses don't even have money, right? But when you now fall short of the standard of the profession, you begin to ask yourself how you those of you that want to uphold it, how do you stand in the face of people who are looking at you now and saying no. We're now being compared to teachers. Well, you're just waiting for your salary. Nobody's not looking at the job itself.
Yes.
We are looking at the rewards that you want to get out of it. You now see your typical journalist waiting to become a media aide to one politician.
Yeah.
As against writing a story without bias. Let me be objective. I remember that one of the arguments used to be, is it possible to not have bias as a journalist?
Yeah.
I said,
it's always coming up in class.
It is possible, right? You can have your biases. But one of the things they train you as a good journalist is being able to tame it. Okay, leave it aside. Let me tell the story. Maybe when I am away from that story, I can now go. You are not writing a love note. You are writing a reality. Right? We know there are different ways to writing and, of course, journalism, right? Because we have sensational ones who that is their specialty. But when it comes to actually news reporting as a journalist, there are standards and ethics that you need to meet.
Yeah.
And when you begin to fall short of that, you begin to lose public trust. And that is why we are like this here in Africa. And somebody can, as a leader, a ruler, feel it's okay to maybe arrest you for the job that you're doing. Not anything else, just for the job they are doing, that he feels comfortable to want to arrest you. It shouldn't be like that. But we need to actually reflect as journalists, go back to our drawing board, and then have this conversation amongst ourselves. We need to take that profession back to the fourth estate of the realm. They didn't give us that tag for nothing. It is essential that we have to be there to maintain checks and balance of the other three.
Yeah.
It is constitutional that we are supposed to uphold a particular standard. So if we begin to see our colleagues begin to do what is not supposed, we should call them out. Don't wait for the public to call us out. That's where you kill the profession.
Yeah. So the question now is, how do media houses, federal government, state government, policymakers, how do they ensure safety, training, and also legal support?
So I think one of the first thing I would try to recommend is having more journalist trained entrepreneurs go into media. Because now we have a lot of media houses that are owned and run or operated as just businesses as against media houses.
Sure.
Right? So many of them don't even want to follow the yardsticks or the ethics or the standards of what the media house is. That is a very major challenge. Now we need to create, because look, to be dependent on government all the time is very annoying. Everybody say, okay, what can government do? Look, government has done the most when they give you a constitution that allows you to operate. But can we create avenues where you can access funding so that you don't have to wait for advertisers who must begin to influence your policy? Funding is very critical, especially in Africa. And then you need to teach journalists how to be journalists again. I know there's somebody called an accidental journalist. I can't even remember what his name was. He did mention, I'll probably remember. He says, we now have a profession where it is easy for anybody to jump into. Unlike a doctor or a lawyer, journalism is not like that. Somebody who can just come today because he knows how to speak English and then he has one charisma and then bam, is in front of a TV with the microphone, and just anybody it's a profession that is for almost every time they can hire if you just meet certain kind of criteria. Whereas you're supposed to have been groomed and trained, because that's the best way you get quality out of a profession. Somebody cannot wake up today and tell you I'm a lawyer, or wake up and become a doctor and you need to do surgery. No. You have to go through the training. I remember when blogging started, I don't know, I have to probably mention her name, but Linda Ikeji, when she started, I think those were the people that pioneered. I won't say she was only then, but I mean, pioneered blogging to the point where one of the arguments we used to have are bloggers, journalists. She has grown her platform
if
to
you
the
go
point.
to school,
She has grown her platform to the point now where many people depend on her.
Exactly.
Right?
True.
And they rather the traditional media. But then again, of course, journalists now have blogs. That transcend out. I just use that as an example. But I remember one of the dilemma that journalists have is the fact that with the avenue of creation of the internet that has made things easy, people have access to information on their phone. We now have information overload. Yeah. That the challenge that the journalists now have is before people will wait for your truth, they have formed their own truth.
Yes.
Because everybody now creates news, right? So when there's so much information, the audience or the receivers who are supposed to wait for you, who is the authentic journalist, by the time you are trying to dot your I's and cross your T's, they've collected the information that they need. And then they form their own opinion. So by the time yours is coming out, they tell you yours is tainted.
Yeah.
We don't have that patience anymore. The people now say, psychologists now say the attention span has now shrunk to the point that meet people where they are. Ordinarily, before you say, wait for the traditional media houses to give you the information before you carry it. These days, it is tell you the traditional media had better go and meet the audience where they are. That's why you now see we have TikTok channels, we now have WhatsApp channels, rather than we just having a TV or a radio set. And these technologies that are supposed to help us make the job easy kind of like complicates it a bit, because I remember when sorry to digress again, Oluye Leko Alabi was here on the table, and then he was telling us how they did election coverage, and they had to send their reports via vehicle to a driver for the. And these days now it's supposed to be easier for us, but you now see your information battling in the same space with not just misinformation but disinformation. There are two different things. Somebody will deliberately misinform you with the wrong information. So you now have so much information in your hand at the palm of it with your phone and everything, and then people are still getting the wrong information. People are not communicating anymore.
Yeah. Talking about training, I always like to look at it from another point. We have the Nigerian Union of Journalists.
Yeah.
Now, growing up and practicing journalism, I used to think, or I was even told that for a media organization to really stand firm, you must be part of NUJ. They are the ones that would, and they will come and actually train your journalists. But these days, also the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, there was a particular station before we started. We did intensive training. NBC quarters. We went there. We're going every day. They trained us. They showed us their code of conduct. We had to, get accustomed to that book. So these days, what is happening? So I think we need to bring back that culture.
Yeah.
The NBC, yes, they are doing a whole lot. They're trying to, regulate the airwaves, make sure that the airwaves are clean, but also they need to also, take part in training some of these journalists too, so that you are in line, so that you don't go up one day and say something. Because back then when I was working in the radio station, any little thing, the NBC director will call my boss and say, want that boy.
That is not listening to you. Yes.
So at the point I became conscious. I had to be, checking the NBC code all the time to make sure that I'm always saying the right thing. I don't go above that. Sometimes they even call to even correct me, not fine, but just to correct me with that particular thing. This is how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So I think the NBC need to bring back that culture. The NUJ also need to bring back that culture. Visit some of these media houses, train these staff, let them get accustomed, because some of these virtues, some of these standards are dying. So the new generations coming in and don't meet those kind of standards.
No. I think one of the things that have become very evident is that journalists themselves have forgotten how to dampen biases, right? To kill their own individual biases, because it now becomes very glaring in the kind of stories that we churn out, and it affects the polity and the policy. Remember, here in Nigeria, once upon a time, one of the most common conversations we used to have then was targeted at a particular ethnic group because of who the president was.
Yeah. Yes.
And at that point, our media space was awash with those kind of stories. I'm talking about the headsmen. If you add a tag to it, that is your business, but I won't do that. Over time, it became a norm to always want to see that as a conversation in our media space. The very moment the president left and it changed hands, the story dies down.
Yes.
what kept it going was because people were feeding, media people, journalists were feeding that bias. And then, because the truth of the matter is the media will form information. They'll give you what to think about. It's part of our job. But when you want to develop as a continent, as a country, as a people, development journalism encourages you not to ignore the bad side, but at least focus more on things that would unite your people, grow your people. Africa, Nigeria, we are where we are because many of our journalists have forgotten to throw away their biases.
Yes. Okay, yes. In addition to training, just as you rightly said, when the lawyers finish from the university, they go to law school. When medical students finish, they go for housemanship. That is one thing we do not have. Maybe if NBC or NUJ can't do it, maybe it's high time we had a school where journalists go to, not just after your 4 years in the university, then you go into broadcasting. Maybe there should be a school where you will be certified as a trained journalist, whether in print, whether in broadcast, whatever it is. By the time we do this, I feel that, yes, we'll have more seasoned journalists than we have now. Then secondly, instead of relying on traditional TV, you're waiting for people to close from work and to come and sit down, step up. You have to up your games. I love the fact that, yes, some media houses, just like Sook News TV, we are on social media right now. So as the news is coming, we shouldn't give room to not just bloggers now. If anybody can just pick up their phone, like we have been saying, and give any kind of information. But yes, the moment a media house, a traditional media house, a traditional radio stations, once they start doing or formulate the habit of saying, okay, let's give those people back to back as it is dropping. As it is coming, you give it to them on social media, you push information into their face. I think to a very large extent, they will start trusting the traditional media houses now, because right now they don't have to wait till they get home to wait for breaking news. Okay. You understand? So they can get that done, and by so doing, yes, I think quality information will be out there. Then I think, I don't know, there is a name for social media, just as we have the NBC controlling the broadcasting, there is another name for those for social media. I think they need to really regulate what is coming out from social media. There should be a control, because with the way it is going now in Nigeria, in Africa, we are losing control of the social media, and wrong information, fake stories, and they are all coming out every day. And with the advent of AI, anybody can create anything right now and dish it out to you, and it will come out so clean that you will almost believe that this is true if you are not used to those used to the AI app. So I think there is a whole lot to really do. There's a need for
I wanted to speak on something. When you said being able to break news, there's a thin line now between breaking news and breaking false news, and you really have to be very careful. I'll give you an example. There was a day I was reading news on a radio station I was working with, and the producer came to tell me that, oh, this person passed away, that I should report it as a breaking news. And I said, I cannot do that, simply because there's no confirmation. She showed me a particular media house that has picked it. I look at this particular media house that picked it. I said, no, let's wait for proper conversation. That was the demise of former Oyo State Governor Ajimobi.
Okay.
Ajimobi, because there were speculations about whether he
yes, I remember. Yes,
he died or not. So at that point, I had to make that call. Even when the general manager, I told him that this is something that we really have to confirm. If the government comes out to say this person has passed on, no problem.
Yes,
we can report it. But a couple of media houses reporting it, we need to verify the fact. So I did not take that. So, media houses, they are always quick because of social media now. People just want to break anything. So you have to even be careful. Even when the federal government, even when Nigeria came out to say, the ban on Nigeria visas in Dubai had been, lifted, it came out to say, no, this is not true. But a lot of media houses brought that true. It wasn't our fault. It was what this person said, what was his name?
Who quoted the government official.
Exactly. We just quoted. So we have to also be very So that's where verifiable. I know, and there are some nowadays. There are some tools where you can actually verify certain stories. You just go online and verify before you put it out. Amon, do you have any final thoughts?
Again, I feel like journalists, we can do more. We should do more in terms of protecting ourselves. I do know many of us see the field where we practice our profession as very, very dangerous. At some point, many of us even have to resort to guerrilla journalism, just use undercover, use VPN to hide your identity, location, and then push out some of these stories. These are tools that you can employ, especially if you want to focus on the truth. But what I feel we can do more is let our allegiance be to the truth and to the people.
Yeah.
Let our objectives be driven to always ensure that the right information get to the right people, because that is the way, and that is how we can get our communities to be better. Because when you have the right information with you, you can get a better society.